Poland is grappling with a growing migration crisis that requires urgent solutions from the ruling coalition. Law and justice politicians are proposing regulatory changes, recognising the need to adapt the law to the current situation. Meanwhile, there are intense clashes in local governments between councils affiliated with the ruling camp and residents and community activists who oppose mass migration. In Poland, foreigners wait about 3 years to be granted citizenship. That's a very short time. Opposition politicians want to extend this time to 10 years.
Jest to nasza odpowiedź na zagrożenia.
This is our response to the threats facing Poland.
Nielegalni migranci powinni być deportowani.
Illegal migrants should be deported from our country. Legal migrants who commit crime should also be deported from Poland. In other European countries, the waiting time for citizenship is much longer. In Italy, 10 years of uninterrupted residence is required. In Austria, it is also 10 years. In Hungary, it is 8 years of uninterrupted residence. In Poland, it is only 3. This simply must be changed. Migration policy must take into account the interests of our country.
Migracja oczywiście nie jest niczym złym, ale pod kilkoma warunkami.
Migration is not a bad thing, but under several conditions. First, under the rules that the host country sets, and these are not imposed rules. And secondly, when these rules take into account the interests of that country. One of them, such I would say even systemic, is that the balance, the proportion between, natives and those we receive is not disturbed. Meanwhile, 49 centres for integration of foreigners are to be established throughout Poland, including in Piotrków Trybunalski. This is opposed both by the residents of that city and the neighbouring county. An extraordinary session of the county council on the issue was held in Radomsko on Monday, where a resolution expressing support for the residents of Piotrków was proposed.
Mieszkańcy powiatu piotrkowskiego, mając świadomość przestępczych zachowań imigrantów,
Residents of Piotrków County, being aware of the criminal behaviour of immigrants, protest and oppose the action of the city authorities aimed at establishing a centre for integration of foreigners in Piotrków Trybunalski. We are neighbours as far as Piotrków Trybunalski is concerned, and for many years the city of Radomsko was in the Piotrków voivodeship. And as we know, the decision of the December coalition authorities is for all centres for integration of foreigners to be established in former voivodeship cities. After a heated discussion lasting several hours, councillors affiliated with the ruling camp changed the content of the resolution, distorting its meaning. We give our support to the government of the Republic of Poland and vote, in what we have done so far, considering it adequate to the prevailing situation. Local politicians of the December 13th coalition were not appealed to by any arguments presented by, among others, activists of the border defence movement. The guidelines have changed. They changed in March 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, they are no longer what they were. Please see one of the most important points, support for legalisation of residence. Well, you can read it. It is an accessible document.
To haniebne działanie niestety radnych.
This is a disgraceful action, unfortunately, of the district councillors affiliated with the Civic Coalition because of not responding to the truth first of all, but also not responding to the needs of the residents of Radomsko district and further the district of Piotrków. The movement for the defence of borders announced decisive act. The guilty are to bear political responsibility.
Będzie kolejna specjalna rada, będzie...
There will be another special council. There will be a leaflet and poster action where we will show which people were involved in not taking care of the security of Polish people in the context of migration policy. The migration problem in Poland is growing and the current legislation needs to be adapted to the new situation. Despite growing public concern, both the December 13th coalition government and local government officials associated with that political camp remain indifferent to the voice of citizens. Will the approach to security determine the outcome of the upcoming presidential election? A political earthquake has stirred in Romania, following the victory of right-wing candidate George Simeon and the simultaneous defeat of Crin Antonescu, supported by the establishment. Prime Minister Marcel Cialaciu has resigned. This leads to my resignation as Prime Minister, which I will do after meeting you. At the suggestion of many colleagues and with political experience in the party, we have also decided not to publicly support either of the two candidates in the second round. All members of the Social Democratic Party are also to withdraw from the government coalition. Only members of the government in ministerial rank will remain in their current positions. Every supporter of the Social Democratic Party will vote the way he or she wants, according to his or her own conscience. That seems right to me. I even read a post by a former Romanian president. I never thought I would find myself agreeing with him. Interior Minister Cătălin Cristoiu has been appointed interim Prime Minister of Romania. The Romanian Prime Minister's decision shows a certain level of political maturity, a maturity in the face of this crushing election result, showing clearly what Romanians want for their homeland. This political maturity is lacking in many politicians in Poland, and if an analogous situation were to take place, the politicians from the currently ruling centre-left coalition would likely not even consider such a course of action. They would cling to their posts. To recap, George Simeon won the first round of the presidential elections on Sunday with a crushing 41% share of the vote. The second-place candidate, in comparison, received only 21% of the vote. Your desire for freedom has triumphed. This is your victory, not mine, and you will continue to triumph. Your vote today is a hand extended to the country you long for. It is a strong signal that you want to return, that you want a Romania worth living in. And I say to you today with all my heart, the Romania you dream of, the Romania you want to turn to, we will build it together. George Simeon thanked voters for their support and assured them that he would side with ordinary citizens, not parliamentarians, and those who, in this quote, robbed Romania for 30 long years. He announced that he wants to change the face of his country. We will not let you down. We will not give up. We will put people at the head of the country for you and your employers. For those who pay your salaries, we must reduce labour tax and social security contributions. George Simeon is the head of the Conservative Nationalist AUR party, which is the third force in the European Parliament's European Conservatives and Reformists group, and its deputy leader. AUR is also a major party in Romania, where it came second in last year's elections. In round two, Simeon will face off against Bucharest Mayor Nicu Sordan, a centre-left candidate supported by the political establishment. I think it's no surprise to anyone that Simeon won first place. It was also expected that Crin Antonescu would not enter the second round, not because of who he is as a person, but because of the ideology that his National Liberal Party represents. Romanians are fed up with what has been going on for the past 10 years with the National Liberal Party president, and that's why he lost. We expected Simeon to win. Second place was uncertain. Since people have now made their bet on Simeon, it is most likely that he will also be the winner in the second round. George Simeon wants to reform Romania. He is also in favour of building a conservative alliance among European Union member states. That is why he openly supports Polish presidential candidate Karol Nawrocki, the primary right-wing candidate, and warns the Polish people against voting for pro-EU establishment candidate Rafał Trzaskowski.
It's time for the Polish to defend their identity and do not choose a mayor that is against the Polish people, the mayor of Warsaw, and actually is a friend of Alexander Soros. So go out and vote. Your vote is very important. We will be two important allies of our Christian identity inside the European Union.
Together with the Romanians, we can make these two 3Cs initiative member countries into a force that will lead to the renewal of the European Union and, above all, strengthen the transatlantic alliance with the United States that will ensure security. Simeon also wants to strengthen cooperation with the United States and aligns himself with the Make America Great Again movement. Romanians will make their final choice in the second round on the 18th of May. On the same day, Poles will vote in the first round of their own presidential election.
Friedrich Merz was set to become German Chancellor with a strong mandate. However, in the first round of voting within the parliament, he failed to get the necessary votes, seriously impacting his authority before he even managed to become Chancellor. The Christian Democrats and Social Democrats, despite having a majority in parliament, did not elect him to the post in the first vote. This is the first such situation in German history. With his head lowered, he left the Bundestag. When we formed the coalition, we got a standing ovation. Now it turns out that there is no stable majority, and that is what is needed most. There is no time to waste. Europe needs a strong Germany. Several hours of intense behind-the-scenes negotiations led to another vote. Here, the stakes were even higher, because if Merz was defeated once again, the German president could have dissolved the parliament and called new elections. But this time, The votes were enough. Support for Merz was declared by smaller left-wing and liberal parties. What these parties got in exchange remains, for now, firmly in the realm of speculation. There is a lot of confusion, not only in the Bundestag, but among journalists who are watching this. Authority has been dented very seriously. This is a unique situation in post-war German history. The severity of this crisis in Germany is evidenced by the declines on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. The main index lost more than 1.5%.
Ja, die Börse wurde auf dem falschen Fuß erwischt.
The markets reacted badly to what happened. The German economy was supposed to be booming, and it turns out even the chancellor's position is weak. This is a huge disappointment. This is all made worse by the ever-present backdrop of Germany's disastrous immigration policy. Germany has a huge problem with Muslim immigrants being accepted to the country, whose antics routinely make normal people suffer. Berlin's idea of relieving migratory pressure is to funnel unwanted newcomers from North Africa and the Middle East into Poland. Poland's Tusk government is the only one in Europe that allows other countries to deport their migrants across its border. The pretext is that these migrants first enter the EU through Poland, but there is no verification of this. Poland has become the one place where Germany can dump its problematic migrants, and this practice will only intensify in the near future. Because, no matter who the German chancellor is, Donald Tusk and his coalition government are not going to object, even if it means endangering the security of Polish citizens. Germany, because of what it inflicted upon itself in 2015, must act in some way to reassure the German people. The public security situation, these daily street crimes, assaults, scandals, have created a horrid sense of anxiety among the German public. That's why German police are dropping off unwanted migrants on the Polish side of the border with impunity. This year alone, more than 9,000 illegal immigrants entered Poland this way, and this is just the beginning. This is about effective attempts to send unwanted people to Poland, people who cause problems in Germany. This is mainly about people with a so-called migrant background, who are connected to the criminal underworld. It will certainly be Merz's priority to get rid of such people, unfortunately, at the expense of Poland. Germany also intends to stand firm against those who do not recognize its hegemony within the European Union. And one of the most dangerous manifestations of this is attempts to push American troops and companies out of Europe. Germany wants to rule Europe, despite the fact that it is not just weak militarily, but, as today's evidence in the Bundestag showed, also politically unstable.
The conclave to elect a new Catholic pope will start behind the closed doors of the Sistine Chapel on May 7th, Wednesday afternoon, with all cardinals under the age of 80 able to vote on who should be the next leader of the 1.4 billion member church. Vatican staff readied the chapel for the deliberations following Pope Francis's death in April, with the 133 voting cardinals' names laid out on set tables in the fresco-adorned church. Earlier this morning, Catholic cardinals gathered at the Vatican for the last congregation meeting, ahead of the conclave to elect Pope Francis's successor. The 133 cardinals were holding near-daily meetings to discuss issues facing the Catholic Church. Today, cardinals who will take part began checking into 2 Vatican hotels, where they will be barred from contact with the outside world as they decide who should succeed Pope Francis. The race to succeed Francis, who died last month, is seen as wide open. Although a few names have been cited as possible front-runners, several of the 133 cardinals expected to vote in the conclave have said they do not know who will become the next pope. The Room of Tears or Crying Room, an intimate antechamber within the chapel's walls, has been prepared for the next pope to change into his papal cassock, with identical robes of various sizes hanging on a rail. During the conclave period, the voting cardinals will stay in 2 Vatican guest houses and take an oath to remain out of contact with anyone not participating in the secret vote.